Hedinn. I hope I said your name right. Tell me if I did.
Yes, you can. My name is Hedinn Sveinbjörnsson, but Hedinn, and that is like, I think that would probably be another podcast where we can take the Icelandic names and have them on like display and try to
just
say
read
them.
through the whole couple of thousands of names that are in the registry, right?
Oh, the phone book, maybe. Yes, thank you. But people, I lived in Denmark for 8 years, and instead of like going through agony of, yes, my name is Hedinn, huh? Hedinn, huh? So I just said, oh, call me Hedinn. And after a while, it was just like, if I heard something with an H, I just like, yes. So,
whatever it is.
yeah, you have to have like humor and about the names, because we are a little bit unique in that sense, because we in Iceland, we tend to value our language, and we try to like give stuff names that are unique, because we want to have it in the Icelandic fashion. So it's just like a jet is not a jet in Iceland, it's þota.
Yeah. Well,
so yeah. But thank you for having me on your show or podcast, or like it's the first time where I have to be in pictures. So I combed my hair, I got my backup stuff, like the stuff of To Happiness. You can see here, over here in this corner is Harry and Froggy, and then over there is Woody and Teddy. So like
you're prepared.
I am prepared. I got
and you have your support team. Yeah, that's very important. That's what I teach all my clients.
Yeah. Because I am a one-man show in the in my company. It's good to have somebody to nag about, like, because I don't think my wife would love me more if I come and like.
Yeah, we all have those moments, right, as business owners.
Yes, thank you. So like, it's good to have some like fun staff members too. Like, and Froggy can, like, he can nod.
Exactly, he can agree with you. So you know whom to talk to depending on what you want, what kind of reaction you want.
So so if probably, because like Woody, he is very stiff on everything. So it's just like, and tough and Teddy, he's just fluffy. So
that's great. So
I think I'm a great leader in that sense. Thank you.
Yeah, everyone is happy on your team, huh?
Oh yes.
Good.
And if not, they just like, they have to leave the room.
And you need to help them because they can't move themselves.
Well, that's like, yeah. Go outside the room. No, you can't say that.
You need to throw them out. All right, let's go back to business.
Yes, business.
I actually wanted to welcome you to the show. So welcome,
I did it myself. Yes, thank you, Anna, because now I am used to have my own podcast. So I'm like, this is an unusual role for me to be an interviewee is interviewed. It's just like, okay, you have to really, like, don't take charge.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna cut it out cut it off every time you try to take the charge of this conversation. It's me who is the boss here.
Let's hope the cat won't come and show its ugly face on Zoom.
Yeah, the cats, those are always taking over the bossy part, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. I want to talk about happiness at work, which is your jam, but I always start the conversation with my jam, leadership. So my first question to you is, who is a leader to you and what is leadership?
Well, I had to think, because it's like almost 9 months or so where I quit my job at Reykjavik Council. But I had a leader who was, in my mind, she did an exceptional or great job. Just say that, like, she was there and stuff. So, but as I jotted down some things that I want to emphasize, is that a leader, he must have a vision for his team, some guidelines and something for his team to like know. If the leader says, I'm going there, and the team knows, okay, we're all going there. But if the team leader or the leader does not say it, then how should the team know about where the direction is and stuff? So a vision is a great, and Like a great leader does not outshine their employees, but like,
That's a good one.
But is still on like a constant lookout for the people who can do better or do it better, like the job at hand better. And 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 I think also a leader should be the one who leads and listens to his team and is not afraid to like come in one day and say, "Hey, you guys, I make a blunder. I made an error yesterday. So can we like?" It's all about authenticity because you have to. It's not leadership is not something that you are not born. Okay, I would prefer to be a part of a leadership or a team, but then I would have another one who is in the front. Do you know what I mean? Like, but because sometimes, but that is just like how you are made in that sense. So, and I think a great leader like tells people when he makes mistakes or does something that is not quite up to the book. It's just like if we took, because we love sports, don't we, Anna?
I'm a single kind of person in the sports thing.
Yeah, but
So
we,
if you want to talk
yeah.
about football, I'm the worst
Well,
one
I
there.
was going to talk about football. No, I'm just talking like if you look at some sports, like if you look at football, soccer, handball, whatever it is, like and the captain on the field, if he just stands there and directs and points fingers and stuff, like what does the other members do? They just get confused and like they don't know. Like it is like a captain on a team, and you just like you do this and that, like everybody knows the role, but you have to go forward and then the other ones they have to know what is expected of them.
Yeah. So it's clarity and also the trust, because
Yes,
like you as a leader, uh, you get everyone clear on what their tasks are, and then you as a leader need to have trust that they will do that and they will come to you for support, but you don't micromanage and you don't really try to control what they're doing and how they're getting the result.
and you have, yes, by that you empower the people, like you have, because there must be a reason why you have hired the people to work with you, so you have to trust them to like you have some set of skills to move along and just like you don't hire somebody and says, well, I was made to, my mom told me to hire you, so like that is not a thing. Well, so empowering the people and give people the leverage to shine, and maybe because we, in my mind, I was talking to on my podcast, the Tribute to Happiness podcast, I was talking to Neil Morley, who has been in his firm for 20 years as an employee.
And you were like, should we call an ambulance?
Yeah, I was just like, what? How? Like, what year is it? Like, and it's just like, but he has had plenty opportunities to evolve, and he loves the people he's working with. So that must also be a challenge that you are recognized and you are the people around you say, okay, we have to do this, and like Neil, can you do this? It was so empowering to listen to his story, because but okay, maybe he is a relic. I don't know if he will love me for saying that, but it is because today people, young people, but that is only in my opinion. Like I don't know you. I maybe there's some research about it, but people spend maybe 2 years at a place, and I find like they change jobs as somebody would change the t-shirt or underwear or something. Like, where do you get experience if you are staying so for a short time amount of time?
Do you think it's partly, it got a bit of a trendy thing to do, right? That you're not kind of stagnating, you keep moving. But on the other hand, maybe that got a bit from the leadership, dysfunctional leadership in the workplaces, that people don't grow into the place, so to say, and grow within the place. And that's why they want to move forward on to some other job.
That could be one explanation, but I think because we talk a lot about the social media now, and the because I'm at the age where like I'm 54. No, I'm 29. Sorry, I'm 54, and like, and it's just like everything has a circle. You just go around, like you start from A but somebody always want to skip a hurdle, like move fast, and like the social media, it's just like it goes so fast. So maybe I don't know if that is the case, but intolerance is, yeah, maybe we have to talk about it. But I think
being
those
impatient.
Yes, but those who truly value and they can sense the workplace is a good place, then they will stay. But if they are going to stay for 20 years or 5 years, which 5, 7 years maybe could be good, because sometimes maybe a great leader should say, okay, now you have been with us for 5 to 7 years, how can we make you go forward? Because you have something. That's also empowering. But it's also like, I was at my former workplace for 12 years, and I was just like, I thought a lot of times, like, okay, now I have to move on. But there was something holding me back, because my insecurity maybe, and like I had to have this sense of like, I can't resign and just like have nothing. But then I did the most craziest thing last year. I handed in the 12th of February, the February 12th in 2020, I handed in my resignation letter. And I was asked a lot of times, if I wanted to like unquit my quitting. But I was just like, no, because I wanted to stand with my decision. And in the same sense of when I handed in my resignation, it was like a fog that lifted, and I was just like, millions, no, okay, hundreds of possibilities, which, like, when one door closes, then the other one, like some other door opens. I was just like, oh, this truly happens. And I just like, I went also into this crazy Jim Carrey from Yes Man movie. I just like, do you want to do this? Yes. So I said almost yes to it. I said yes to everything, and I'm lucky because there was no carpenter who said, do you want to work for me? Because I have 10 of those. So I was very happy. So after I quit, I slept for a month. I was so tired. I literally slept for a month. So, and then I started to work as a waiter. And I didn't realize that being a waiter would be so much fun, because you meet loads of interesting people, and the stories, and just having a sense of a nice evening with a good meal, and talking to people, and just say, yeah, oh, lovely to see you, great to meet you, and drive safe. It was so giving. And it's just like, it's unbelievable when you, and I never thought that I would be there, because how many times did I sit in front of the telly or listen to a podcast where, yeah, and then one door closes and the other one opens, or one window closes and the other says, yeah, like,
keep talking.
Yeah, bye, whatever, go ahead. So that's my take on it. So
that's very good point here, that you sometimes, like, we have all this wisdom around ourselves, right? And the information is just overflowing, and we're flooded with that. And quite often it's a lot of golden nuggets that are sad and come into our attention, but they don't resonate because they don't fit into our current picture of the world. And that's what was happening to you in that job. And once you were out of that framework, you suddenly started getting, you became that soil that kind of takes in those seeds in a way.
Yes. And also I realized that being afraid it doesn't get you anywhere, because I prior to that, I started with my Icelandic podcast, and I couldn't care less. Like, I was just like, I interviewed people and I was just so intrigued by them, and I listened to the story and I was curious and stuff. And then when I started my mission after I handed in my resignation, I read this book called Brave Leadership by Kimberly Davis. And I like loved it. And I was talking where she mentioned that I had to translate my Icelandic podcast so like the rest of the world could enjoy it. But then I said, maybe that my next brave would be making a podcast in English. And then another friend said, well, when you have two, like you can talk to me and Kimberly. And I was like, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I started to like think about it and try to figure out how to do it. But the worst thing when I was going to launch my first episode was that I was literally like shaking and I was trying, and my wife said to me, hit the effing button, hit entry and figure out what happens. And I think that is the main thing, that like we have to make mistakes, or we have to do stuff to learn and to progress and to go forward in life.
I think here we're very interesting point here again, Hedinn.
Hedinn, yes.
you always bully your guests about the pronunciation of your name. That's why I pay extra attention.
Or I just laugh about it, so that's fine.
Yeah. It's all positive. So you're talking about the fear, right? And you've been a podcaster for several years, and it's quite successful here in Iceland. And then suddenly, just because of the switch of the language, quote unquote,
yes,
you were shaking out of fear. So what do you think was this difference? Why did this fear come up?
The first thing was English is not my first language. And my first episode was me talking to a great friend of mine, or colleague from Belgium, Kim, and she's a French, she speaks French, and then she has to talk in English. So I think probably we were both insecure because when I asked a question in English, like from Icelandic to English, and asked, she had probably had to like think it in French and then speak so it was just like it was so straining. But when I talked to I had an American guest on and an English guest, it was just like, yeah, so what do you think about happiness at work? And it was just like pushing a play button, and it's just like waka 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 waka, and I was just like, I didn't have to say anything. So I think it's the fear of saying things not exactly right, or like making a fool of yourself. But then I'm this kind of person that I really don't care. So I'm just like, I have this notion of life ain't worth of having worries about. Am I making
but
fool
you still
of myself?
cared. You still cared when you were about to launch the podcast.
Yes, and I really thought about it. Why did I go there? Why did I? Because it was not the case in Icelandic with the Icelandic podcast, but when it came to the English podcast, this was maybe because I was also reaching out over the borders of Iceland, because maybe we always look at ourselves as we are a nation, tiny nation, North Atlantic. We don't get places without planes and stuff, or ships. So it's just like, who wants to listen to an Icelandic bloke in a podcast? But I have had a blast. I love talking to people. Again, it's just like, because happiness at work is something that I have grown fond of, because I think of it a lot. And I find it intriguing when people have this amazing stories. Or, for example, I was talking to a lady, Dr. Jenny Brockison, who is from Australia. And she wrote this book called Thriving Mind, where she talks about when she went into burnout. And it is so like heartbreaking when you listen to those stories.
And it happens all the time, right?
And it happens all the time, and it is starting to show everywhere. And people are like, why is it that this is an issue? Like 20 years ago, there was probably more discussion about what kind of a table you would sit at work, how is your chair and stuff. But nobody mentioned burnout, because you just worked. Stop whining, keep on going. So it's just like fascinating to hear in her case how she like figured it out and moved ahead. and figured out what she wanted and not wanted. Because you only have one life.
Yeah.
You only have one life. And what is your legacy? Well, she worked herself to death. Nobody wants that on her tombstone. So it's just like, so we have to because all the research shows that what is it that makes you as an employee insecure? It's like unsustainable workload, lack of control, perceived lack of control, insufficient rewards for effort, and lack of support, lack of fairness, and the mismatch of values and skills. And I have often wondered about when you put the team together, do you have, if you have a team of 4, do you have 4 introverts on the team? Or do you have, how do you combine? Because I think companies, if leaders would have some system to, okay, this one would go very well with this one. And they would it's like a game of chess.
It's a very complicated question, and we discuss it a lot with my husband, who is a researcher. He's researching software engineering, but he's using a lot of these psychological studies in his education, in his teaching students. He does a lot of group work and group projects for his students as assignments. And he's like, that all stuff is BS in the end of the day. You can't take one test and say, okay, this guy is this kind of personality and this girl is this kind of personality, so put them together in the group and they will work best. So it's a very complicated question and there is no quick answer. But I really want to tap into one thing here. You mentioned a couple of things that make people unhappy at work, with lack of support and so on. And I want to go into the happiness at work for leaders in particular. Because I feel like we're talking a lot about happiness at work. Okay, maybe not enough still, but still there is a conversation about how can we make our employees happy, keep them happy, satisfied, engaged, and so on in the workplace. And that gets in on the lap of the managers, of the leaders in the company. But no one talks about happiness of the leaders. So I would like to go into that topic with you.
Yeah, I think that is because you are you have grown so much that all of a sudden it's just maybe it's like parenting. You have your kids. You hold their hand. You hold your kids' hands for a long time, and then all of a sudden you say, "Okay, now you're grown up." Maybe that is also when you get higher up in the in the system in the company. Then you just all of a sudden they say, "Well, you are this far. Now you can do it yourself." But actually, I think it's probably the same. Everybody needs support, and you have to be authentic or vulnerable and say just, okay, guys, I'm in a rut. I have something is happening. I can't see beyond my nose, or whatever you should say. So leaders are also humans. So you have to think about your vulnerability as a leader, because if you have all the baggage and access on with the weight of the world on your shoulders, you will go down with a flag. And it's just it goes all the way up. You have to have a support system that helps you. And this simple question, how are you today? It doesn't matter if it's the boss, or it is just we have to show interest in the people we are dealing with. And
what you're suggesting is that the employees start doing that genuinely curious about how the leader is within their
organization. Or just why, if we are telling the leader to go to his employees and say, how are you today? It must be a normal question to be asked, the vice versa, the employee asked, because what if there is something happened in your life, your grandmother died, or in the pandemic, you haven't seen your grandparents for ages, and you're just suffering because your grandmother meant so much to you and stuff. If you just talk about it, because we are all humans, We all have our fears, we all have our feelings, and we are like, if you're happy, what is it that connects people? Like sports connects people. Then if it our Icelandic
apart from the stupid host here.
Yeah, but well, you do something else. You are good at something else. But like everybody can make the who clap, like who. So it's just like, but then it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter who you are and what hat you have on your head when you are like in a sporting game or what you're doing, because if you can show that you are like minds think alike, like great minds think alike. So it's just like, find your place. I'm not talking about that you have to be best buddies or best, like you don't have to invite everybody home for coffee. And so you just show interest in the people you have. And likewise, because it's all from the top and down, and maybe like the people who are down, they can also say, oh, and how are you? It is so like it sounds simple, but there are a lot of people that don't dare to say it.
Yeah, that's I've seen it as the cultural difference. Like I'm coming from a more direct culture in Ukraine, and when I moved to Sweden and then I studied in England, there the how are you question or are you okay in the Newcastle where I lived, that was a kind of a greeting way, and no one cares how you are. But I was answering straightly like, yeah, I'm like this or that, or this is happening in my life. And I'll just be in this awkward situation. People are like staring at me like, huh?
Yeah.
I hear this.
Yeah, and I was in London with I have a good friends in London, and I was just like, why is it that when you go into a store in London or in England that you're like, how are you? And you, like you say, we just start to, yeah, well, I just walked, like I took the bus and blah, 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 blah. And the people are just, you just can see them that it's just like it's the question that they have to ask. So it's like you say, it's a cultural thing. But I think like in a workplace, it must be not like, then it is just like, okay, how are you today? And whenever the situation is like in the pandemic, companies were facing some unbelievable challenges. And the thing about working remotely, like you have to trust the people. You have to trust your employees. A good leader just says, okay, I know you're doing your stuff, because sometimes at home, even though if you work for 6 hours and you get the things done that you are supposed to do, then what about the 2 hours? Don't you value them as a reward? Or like, because when at the workplace, there are phone calls, there are this and that, maybe, and when you're at home, then you allow yourself to focus on the work at hand. You don't have any interruptions around you and stuff.
Unless you have kids homeschooling, but that's not in our country.
Yeah, so no, that is, but here in Iceland we did not have that. Like, so, but then you have to come to an agreement with your spouse or to the significant other that, okay, I take Monday, like, and then you can swap between weeks and stuff. So there are a lot of things that the pandemic showed us and revealed their ugly faces. And I think companies and we as employees, leaders, whatever, we are like moving forward again. And I think that is human resources, HR departments, I'm wondering if they are stagnated, if they are in a rut, that like there is a system that was made up all those years back, and they are just like, why change what is good? But then the question is it good?
Honestly, I've been in many organizations and talked to clients from different organizations, and I'm yet to meet a person who is super happy with the HR department within their organization. And not to talk bad things about the HR, but it's really about the mismatch of the needs of the organization, because the organization has moved forward and we just kept the functions the same. The people now there are so many systems, automated systems and so on, that help HR people keep track of the salaries and whatnot. But people are having this expectation that the HR people will help us with like coaches and this and that, and like come in and like put out fires when we have conflicts between people. But those people are not educated in those things quite often. So we have a total mismatch between the official function and the education and the talent of those people, because they are great at systemizing things and other things. But then we have put like 100 more things that we think they should do, but we never equip them. It's the same with the leadership. We get people into leadership positions, but we never train them. And just today I was having a call with one of my clients, and he was talking about that. Isn't it weird, Anna, that like when you are responsible for some tool in production, you get you get trained on how to use that tool on day one of your job. And statistically, we started with that because I was saying that leaders on average get the first education or training in leadership 13 years after they've started leading people. And he's like, if it's a tool, like a physical tool, then it's on day one. And if your tool, quote unquote, are people, and you're supposed to use your people to bring the value to the company, then you need to first do the trial and error and hurt people and yourself for 13 years before you go on a 3-day tour or course, and you forget afterwards.
And think about the colleagues which you have been working with for maybe like, okay, let's go for like 10, 13, 15 years. You have been working with the same group of people, and then all of a sudden you are promoted to a leader. Then all of a sudden the people who you have been working with, they just look at you and say, okay, what's next? Like you have all the answers, but like, and it's just like, was that
Didn't we discuss it all together just yesterday?
Yeah, didn't we sit in the cafeteria and just like goofing off and laughing about some jokes or making jokes and stuff, and then all of a sudden I'm just like, ooh, here comes the leader. So I think it's also how you are received, or like, of course you applaud when people get like, you get advancement, but it's funny how it's like you just change figure, or like, are you wearing a new shirt today?
It sounds like to succeed, we need to not only educate the leaders, but also the other employees. And that not necessarily should come from the leader himself or herself. Like say, hey guys, I'm here just as part of the team. And yes, I have some responsibilities that might look bigger than yours, but your job is just as important. So it's a lot about this kind of training, official, unofficial, but just really getting that into DNA of the teamwork, that guys, we all have our job descriptions here, and mine is not kind of better or worse than yours. It's just different. And without you guys, I won't be able to be a leader, because I won't I won't get to the results. So it's really about making sure that everyone is seen, appreciated in the team, and their job is seen as important.
And also, I think when you are like the things that you were saying now, it's just like my mind went off, and I thought, how the codependence, like how many times are we just like, play along, be nice, and you are like, sometimes you just have to go in and like, there is a bad apple, but nobody talks about it. You know what I mean? That like, and like when you are the guy, or you are the person who has to take and say, okay, there is something rotten here, and you have to take it out, then you're not going to be the most popular person in town. But then again, like, you have to address it. You have to, because I think in that sense, for companies, that is the value. Because if you have a dysfunctional person or a team that is dysfunctional, and there is a rotten apple in the team, you have to take it out. You have to weed out the bad influence. And sometimes when somebody gets advancement, what happens? Envy kicks in.
And how do you as a leader handle that?
Yes, and that is because that is probably $1 million question. And I think also that, like, because maybe there is this person. I have been like in my work, in my career or in my work life, people have gotten advancement where you just think, why on earth did they pick this person to go ahead further up in the chain? And you, but then maybe those people are just clever to like have the right team and stuff, and they go with you up and up and up and up. So that is something, but how a leader deals with envy, there is always like, I think like now, just in this 45 minutes that we have been talking, we have talked about a lot of things that is just like, okay, how do we do that? Because it's hard, because the human brain, we as people, because my background is in social education, and I'm the vessel, I'm the tool, my brain is the only thing I can relate to. I don't have Excels like that, because people's behavior is just unbelievable sometimes. But then it's better maybe to say, okay, and especially and we, at my former job, it was like, and I had this mission when I was leading a youth club. I told my employees, do, and then we talk about if it worked or it didn't work, or what can we learn about it. But don't be like shy and do nothing, because that does not bring us anywhere. So I would rather that you go for it, you get an idea, and then you go for it, and then we can discuss like, how on earth did you why did you make that decision? Why, what was the urge that you had to take the kids to whatever, and then like it failed horribly, or what can we learn? That is how we evolve. But that is because I am the only tool that I have. And if I get sick, then what can I do? So that is also the question for, we have to give people, and a good leader, a great leader, I think that would be the greatest achievement. If you can say, I have hired you, or you are here because you have this set of skills, try things, and then we discuss it. But some companies are in the rut of, we have done this for 20 years, we have done this for 50 years, why change something that is not broken? And that is also a thing, because that is, again, where does the fear come in? So it's just like, where do you want to? And then all of a sudden, let's say a family company that is sold, and all of a sudden the only thing you hear about is that company, because some new person come in, new energy, and everything is just like exploding. So it's just like, what happened? And that is just because people come in and see the potential, the vision. They have a vision for this company, and they will bring it further, and they will do it.
Here it's a very interesting point, because if you think about the family companies, for example, often the family owners, they still have some vision for their company, right? But maybe often gets into a more personal vision that, okay, this is our thing and we want to sustain the family and so on. And when there's new person comes, they see the bigger picture, how this company can really contribute to changing the society, to disrupting the market and those kind of things. So that's probably what you're talking about. That it's not necessarily that the family owners don't see the vision, but they may be more focusing on keeping the family vision alive.
Yeah, and if you look at like, okay, my grandfather started this business and this was his value. And if he started the company like 50 years ago, then the time was utterly and completely different than today. Maybe like, and surely there was no social media, for example. So we have to like, and it's just like, sometimes maybe as the point was before, in like when I started talking about my age, that young people, maybe their minds, they are so clever, they are so like, they think fast, and they just and it's done, and you are just like, no, what did you do, what happened here, why, whoa, what, can we have a meeting about this? And they are just like, you're sweating. So it's just like, it's fascinating to see when the old versus the young and stuff, but it's fun because the dynamics that can come out of it. And in my sense, because I have been working with youth for a long time, it is just like fascinating how to like give them this nudge, just go for it and just see how it goes. And I'm so, because I am following my kids for the early days, like I was working in the youth club from 2002 to 2007. And I like, as evil Facebook could be, I have them as friends, and then I just like go and check up on them, and they have a great family life, and they are doing this, and then I'm just like, oh my God, this is exactly how I thought this person would be. Like, and it's just like, so there are things valuable in the youth. And I remember when I was young, I was like, yeah, go for it. But then the suits came and they're like, no, in this company we have always done it like this. And they are not to be nudged, like they are not to be moved. So that is, there are a lot of things to look at, and happiness at work is like, they say that all the research say that happiness of work is about results and relationships. Profit is not what an employee is thinking about, because the profit is for who? It's not for the employee. So it's just like, or the leader, but the profit is for the owner and the shareholders and stuff. But you have to recognize the value of the employee and give rewards, and like, just, it's the little things. What do you think if the leader came to you and said like, oh, I went to the donut shop and I bought you a donut, fancy one? You would just like, I think you would fall out of the chair, like, what did I do wrong? Like, but it's a nice gesture, isn't it? It's just like, I noticed you. I value you as an employee.
And here I actually want to circle back to the discussion about how are you. I had to train quite some people on my teams or people whom I worked with to use that question, to really answer that and not say, hey, how are you? To reply. And the thing, what I would do, it felt stupid in the beginning, but I felt it was important for me because I really meant the question. So I would repeat it. So how are you? And I mean it. Yeah. And now in written, I actually do it. Like when I start the message and I say, hey, how are you doing, or something, and then I go to the point of the message and then just they answer to the point of the message, and I'm like, I answer to that, and so how are you? I actually meant the question. So be persistent as a leader or as an employee to your leader when you ask that question, and really point it out that you actually meant to ask that question and get the answer to it, not only say hi with that question. So that's one of the tips that I have seen a lot of effect on.
And another thing that I would also talk about is that taking a compliment. I am raised by parents who were born in 1925 and 1929. And oh my God, a compliment that was just like a butter on a bread. Like it, you never, I had to hear it from my, like, outside the family, at family gatherings, that I could sense that my father was proud of me. But giving a compliment and make it a genuine stuff, that is also tricky. But receiving compliment, that can also be, because I was in that state where I did something and it was probably great, and people came to me and said, oh, that was a great job. And immediately, what did I do? No, don't thank me like that. Oh, I could have done this better and this better. And just like, in recent years, I have been joking with my brother, who is 10 years older than me, and he is a great chef, and he made this cake, ice cream cake or whatever it's called, and it was a hockey field, ice hockey field, and I was just like, did you make this? Yeah, and it's great. No, it could have been, no. Just say thank you. Just take it. And then the day after, then he could say, like, do you remember the cake? I did like this corner was not quite like, but does it matter? Like if it is, so it's just like, as it is a training thing, like you say, how are you? And mean it, and not like just be on the, like walking and just like, how are you? Okay, then you're off and you're just like, So as you are receiving a compliment or giving a compliment, mean it, and just as you take it, just say, oh, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the rule, like, thank you, period. Yes. Or if you really, 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 really want to add something, say, it makes me glad to hear it. That's it. And then, don't go into, oh, my hair, yeah, I haven't cut it in a while, or, yeah, this dress is 20 years old, never mind, or whatever. Just say, thank you.
Yes. And just receive it and take it and just like go on with your life. So that is funny. And I think there are a lot of things that we are maybe in our heads, because now I have, my kids are 20 years old. They just became 20 in January. And there are so many things that sometimes I want to rip their head off, because I'm just like, who is watching you? Who is thinking about you? Because, oh, I was walking there and this girl, she looked at me, and I'm like, yeah. Can it be that the person, like, she looked at you just to glance over at the clock that was behind you? Like, your brain is so wired, and it's just like unbelievable. And I think, talking about the brain, Dr. Jeff Skolnick, I think his book is being published in the States, where he combines the East and West in psychiatry, and because
it is just him like, on your show, right?
Yes, I have had him, and I was just like, okay, you talk, and I was just listening, because it was fascinating to just listen to him talk about tunnel vision and why, like, it's just like the brain is it's weird, but it's a muscle and you have to train it.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, talking about training, we discussed how to deal with envy, and you said it's a $1 million question. I actually might have an answer to it. Of course, I'm not proving that, or like that's the only mine and only, but that's how I work with my clients, actually, with the envy. You take care of your part, and
that is, yes,
give responsibility of the others' parts to the others.
Yes, and that is also like, because if we sum it up, like the happiness at work, because companies, if they really want to do something for the people at the companies and the employees and stuff, they don't hand out a fruit basket, or they don't give you, like, it has to be something that is, you feel valued, because sometimes the things that just don't, like, mindfulness doesn't do anything for you if you do it only one time. You have to continue doing it, and the company has to show that, okay, we are doing this, just like a gratitude. I really recently, in September, I started to participate in gratitude challenges. And it's just remarkable, because I thought I'm not good at being grateful. But like, when you wake up, and you know this because you live in Iceland, and when the sun is shining in December, you're just like, oh, the sun is shining, and you are just.
But then usually you don't wake up at that time, because sun is shining at 12 or 1 p.m.
That's another discussion, Anna. Don't ruin this for me. Or when you hear the birds singing in the middle of winter, it's just like, and instead of like, oh, the birds kept me awake all night, I was just like, I would think of them as they were a choir and they were singing for me, and just like being like, let your imagination take over and be happy or grateful for your stuff. Don't, like, if you have something to complain about, then you have to, like, look inside and say, okay, what is it that is not functioning with me?
Exactly. And that's where we're doing the exercises with my clients to see what's triggered, what is threatened in me.
Yes.
And they're like, Anna, you just like making me feel like it's all my fault. I was like, no, we are finding the things that you are capable of fixing. You can't fix the other people, especially if they're 40, 50 years old. They've always been like this. The chance of you changing them is pretty damn little.
Oh, what we can change. You said that, yeah, because I sometimes say things that I like, you can't say that. And I was just like, well, like, I have done that for 54 years. Why should I change now? Like,
no, but that's the thing. Like, we just need to take responsibility for ourselves.
It's a great point.
And seeing your part is empowering. It's not about really feeling bad about it. It's like, heck, this is how I'm perceived, or heck, this is what makes me feel so frustrated in those situations. And then just getting this clarity, and awareness, you have the power of changing that.
And also, when you get this feeling of, like you say, I love it. Like you're trying to change me, or you're trying to, but because when you react to something or to someone in a negative way, then why is it? Where is it? Because it can be that you are not aware of it. But maybe it was from your upbringing, because you always got the thing about like your parents said something and you just like you took it in, and it's there, and it triggers something in you when people do this and they don't do that. Or then you have to ask yourself, why is it that I'm so emotional about this? Or why is it like, why is it that this thing makes me so angry that I want to rip somebody's head off? Or like it is just like, then you must go inside and say to yourself, like, why am I reacting to this problem? It's not about fixing you, or like, it's just like, look at it from like, try to see things from another perspective.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's fun. I think you're onto something, Anna. Like, it is just.
I'm on my way to the $1 million, right?
Yeah.
And that's the same with the compliments, actually. It's the same mechanisms. When we don't have this strong core of ourselves, the self-esteem and the belief that we are worth of love, be it the love and appreciation of the others or our own towards ourselves, then those compliments don't have anything to stick on. You talk about like, okay, throw in spaghettis to the wall and see what sticks. Those compliments, they just kind of don't stick to you. They don't have anything to really kind of resonate with. So by working on your self-esteem, by strengthening your feeling of your self-worth, you start remembering those compliments. Because talking from my own experience, when I was much weaker with my self-esteem, people would compliment me, and the day later, I wouldn't remember that compliment.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't stick.
Oh, I feel you. I am so with you, because I have like been there, done that, and it's very easy to go. Only last week or the week before, I was sitting here in my office with my employees, and all of a sudden, I don't know what it was, because I got so angry and frustrated, and I really don't know why. And I went downstairs to my wife and said, I am so like angry and frustrated. Why is that? Of course, my wife, she's my best friend. It's like, she's my doctor. And I was just, I don't know. And I all of a sudden, they're just like, there was something, maybe something I read, or maybe I was working on my webpage and I was just not in a good place. And I was just like, and then all the negative self-talk started, and you just, boom, you are not good enough. And boom, you are this and you are that. And it was just like, and the tricky thing is like, stop. And then, why are we doing this? Hello. So it's unbelievable.
The thing that I'd recommend my clients there is really to take a physical break. And we talk about the method of walking out of the problem.
Yes.
So if it's in front of your computer, you take a break, you go out, make your coffee, and really think about the coffee, and just talk to yourself. If you keep coming back in your mind to the computer, then you talk about it. Okay, now I grind my beans. Now I fill the machine with water. Now I put the beans in the machine. 5 minutes later, you come back to the computer and you see it differently. And I had a client, for example, month after we worked together, she would out of sudden message me like, hey, I had this horrible conflict today at work, and I just spent back into the shittiest place where I used to be quite often. And I realized it, and I took a break, so like shut down my computer, took my dog and went to the beach, which I love. And she's like, I felt so bad. I spent out of that stuff. And the thing is that before we worked with her, she wouldn't even identify that she's spinning down in that spiral. Now she managed to identify it. Yeah, she didn't prevent it, right? But at that moment, she already managed to identify it, acknowledge it, and take the responsibility and the power of doing the things that will help her to get out of that, instead of going for days and days and days on grinding on that problem.
Yeah, and it's also, I love visiting like companies in the computer businesses where they have these playrooms, like soccer, like, you know, the ping pong tables and stuff, because it's also in the youth clubs, like a ping pong table is just like when you play and you just start to talk to somebody, and all of a sudden that, like, you are talking about stuff, and then like you've seen on my face, like, I know, and then you have the solution, or you can
the bulb moment.
Yes, light bulb moment, and just that, like, give yourself. It's just another thing. I don't know, like, people who are watching this, like, they maybe will say, "Oh, they were all over," but allow yourself to play, because even though I'm 54. I love to kick a soccer ball. I love to, like, play Candy Crush. It is just like, when did it say in the manual that, oh, when you're 13, you're not a kid anymore. You are not allowed to play. Have fun. Do something that you like. It's like, what do you gain from life if you're going to go through it miserable and you're like moaning about, oh, I have to go to work. It's so bad. Quit your job. Why stay at the job you feel miserable?
Yeah, you only have one life.
You only have one life. So, we are already talked an hour.
I think it's a good way of wrapping up. So you have 2 questions, or no, 3 questions to you, which I always finish with. One is your 3 pieces of advice to our genius leaders, listeners and viewers, on what they can do to stay in their zone of genius.
I found, like, in one conversation with a community I was in, the sentence "be brave, not perfect" came up, and I feel it's so empowering. Just be brave, not perfect. Nobody is asking you to be, and you can't be 100% perfect. So be brave and not perfect. And a leader, show empathy and lead and listen, because you never know where your employees might be in, like, what is happening around them, or, like, there are, like, just lead and listen, but be brave, not perfect. I think that is the, like, that was a light bulb moment for me.
That's beautiful.
It's so simple. It's so simple.
Yeah, it's simple but really powerful. Yeah. That's really powerful. Thanks. And one practical piece of advice that is coming, this question is coming from the feedback I'm getting. Talking about that, genius leaders, thank you for all your comments and suggestions on what we can do. So one of the suggestions was to call it the genius corner. So basically, what can you take? What kind of action can our listeners and viewers take today to become better at leading from their zone of genius?
I think it's hard maybe to sit down with your employees and say, okay, guys, we need to do some changes. How can I change? What can you do to, like, improve the things that we are doing? And just be like, and they will probably hit you with a, like, a boxing glove, but just, like, be vulnerable and be authentic and just say, okay, guys, we need to do something. And also, like, if you want to make your people happy, do some random stuff, surprise them, and just, but don't make it a continuous. Like, because then they start to think, like, we have the right of, like, just do something crazy, like invite them to a cinema and just, like, one off. But I think the one thing is, like, how can we go forward? How can we move forward and take it and be thankful and grateful that, I know it's hard. It's it's very hard to just, like, get, well, when you do this, I feel this. Then you just have to Okay. Then there is always thing, plan, do, check, act, plan, do, check, act. It's a circle and you just like, you go around, but there is always some level of improvement in your space.
I think I want to add to that. It's beautiful to create those conversations with your employees and your team members, but mean it, really mean it, and take it and commit to implementing it. Because if you create that space, if your employees open up and then they don't see you taking action based on that, you just run the whole way or the highway to hell, really.
And it is, if they don't see, like talk about survey fatigue, because we had this annual survey about well-being at work and how your space was and stuff. And then 6 months later, the results came and there was improvement there. And I was just like, oh, did I have this problem 6 months ago? Like, if you don't act on it the day after, if you can do it, if you can change it, then show that they're okay, we take you seriously, and we are going to make these improvements.
And here, no affiliate or anyhow paid collaboration, but one of your guests was talking about now I don't remember the name, but the British guy who was talking about their tool for daily check-ins for the employees.
Yeah, it was probably David Bellamy who was talking about the Happiness Lab, and just like, and that is, I probably think it's a great tool because he talked about it, that he is his company is the only one who can see who it is or what is. And as he mentioned, he could see that there was somebody in a really
suicidal.
Yes, and he decided to do something, and he contacted the person. What about that?
Yeah, not the employer. But I think I will add the Happiness Lab to the show notes, because this is a great resource for you employers if you want to implement something like this. Daily check-ins, totally anonymous, but you really create this quicker system of feeling the temperature in the room and being able to react to that quicker.
So, and see where is the balance? Why is this department like going down and the other, like what is happening in the company? So that's, I think, and I think the Happiness Lab is onto something, but there are probably more companies out there who do the same, but like he is on top of my mind because I just recently talked to him. So
yeah, and I recently listened to that conversation.
And he is a really great guy. So that's I only wish him the best.
Great. Talking about the contacts to put in the show notes, that's the last question of mine. If people would like to learn more about what you do or contact you, what's the best ways to continue?
I am on LinkedIn under my Hedinn Sveinbjörnsson, and True Happiness is also on LinkedIn. I have, of course, the Facebook, who is not there in Europe. And then I am on the verge of putting my webpage out. I have been, but there are always, like, when you find something, figure something out, and then you all of a sudden are, oh, I can do this also. So it's just like, I am playing with my Legos now.
You need to launch it and then you play with the Legos. It's not like you need to.
and I have to practice what I preach, because I have told the people that, like, launch it and do something, and then I'm just like, but it's not about improving. It's just like, can I have this on my webpage? Yes.
Add it. And that's the same with what was with my podcast, right? It was not perfect, but I just launched it, and then I continue improving, and I added to new platforms every week and so on. So it's just about imperfect action. Go out there.
You just take an action and do it. And like with podcast and stuff, it's just like you start after 10 episodes. Okay, how am I doing? And then you start to tweak it a little bit, and you start to like, I can do this. But authenticity in the podcast is also nice, because I think we all need a good laugh. And in my podcast, I have made some blunders, so I just laugh because life is too short not to laugh.
Yeah, definitely. Genius leaders, on that note, we will let you go and live your life, take action. And thanks for listening. And let's talk next week about how you can be your genius leader.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hedinn, for being here and giving us some laughs and some good ideas to digest in our days.
You're welcome.